Greetings, everyone. I'm Dr. David Adler, president of the Alturas Institute and a constitutional scholar, joining you today to talk about two ways to constrain Donald Trump. A growing number of Republicans and Democrats in Congress are calling for the removal of Donald Trump from the office of the presidency. This reflects, first, their alarm at the fact that he incited sedition against the U.S. Capitol building on January 6th. But it's more than that. An increasing number of governmental leaders, even in the Pentagon, have expressed concerns about what Donald Trump might do with resort to the military or the use of nuclear weapons to maintain his hold on power. Whatever the concerns are, we as Americans have to think seriously about how to protect ourselves from the menace that Donald Trump is. And let's make no mistake about it, he represents a clear and present danger to the security of the United States. Here are two options. The first is to invoke the 25th Amendment, ratified in 1967. You've all heard about the 25th Amendment, and you're no doubt familiar with the fact that it was written to provide for a legal mechanism to remove a president who might, for some short time in office, be disabled or suffered from what the framers of the act provide an inability. What does this mean? The removal of a president for even a temporary period of time would solve the problem of the succession and the continuity of leadership in the office of the presidency. With respect to Donald Trump, here's what has to happen. Vice President Mike Pence and a majority of the cabinet should meet and decide to remove Donald Trump from power. Why? Because he's obviously delusional. Yes, delusional. He still refuses to acknowledge that Joe Biden won the election. He refuses to in any way participate in the 200-year tradition of an orderly transition of power. The reality is that he is capable of taking actions that might harm the United States and bring our government to a standstill. Those are the expressed concerns of many leaders inside our government. What happens if Mike Pence and a majority decide to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove Trump from power? Well, you surely can bet that Donald Trump would immediately file documents indicating that he should not be removed. What happens then? Now we have a conflict. Mike Pence and the cabinet would then be required to make a statement indicating that they are confident in their conclusion. If the president is refusing to accept the invocation of the 25th Amendment and his removal from office, then Congress has a period up to 21 days to decide whether or not to override the president's refusal. This means that Congress could support a declaration or an invocation of the 25th Amendment. Now you might think 21 days, that's far too long because it exceeds what remains of Trump's tenure in office. That's true. However, if the concern about the potential mischief or the potential harm that Trump would inflict on the United States is so grave, that means that Congress could act quickly. All of this could be done very, very quickly. For example, on January the 14th or 13th, Congress could proceed to act and have all of this done within a week's time. You might say, well, that still leaves Trump another week in office up until January 20 when Biden is sworn into office. You're right about that. But if we are so concerned about the harm that Trump might conflict on America, every day, indeed every hour in which he remains in office represents a grave danger to the United States. Is it likely that Pence and the cabinet would invoke the 25th Amendment? I'm sorry to say I don't think it's very likely, even though he surely has grounds to do it. After all, look at how Donald Trump has bashed him without mercy. Look at how Donald Trump is not even willing to give a nod to Mike Pence for his loyalty for 4 years. But most importantly, when Donald Trump sent his faithful to the Capitol, and they began to exercise acts that resulted in violence, it represented a direct threat to Mike Pence and to his family who were accompanying him in the gallery. The Secret Service had to usher him out. So in many ways, Trump not only represents a grave threat to the United States, but meant, in effect, to encourage a crowd to incite violence. And remember, when the crowd walked in or marched into the Capitol, many were screaming, "Where's Mike Pence?" Thus, Mike Pence might have reason, sufficient reason, to be a party to the 25th Amendment, but I don't think it will happen because so many members of the cabinet are acting members, not those members nominated and confirmed by the Senate through the constitutional process known as advice and consent, but these are acting heads of those departments, and they are likely to be very loyal to the president. If the 25th Amendment won't work in removing Donald Trump from office, what's another method? The second way, of course, is through impeachment. Now, you will say, we impeached Donald Trump once and the Senate refused to remove him. That's all true. But now new circumstances have presented themselves. Under the impeachment clause of the Constitution, we would ask, what has Donald Trump done since the last impeachment to constitute an impeachable offense? Clear as day, he incited a crowd to engage in sedition. His ongoing efforts to undermine the Constitution, the rule of law, to abuse his power, constitute sufficient grounds for Congress to move quickly. Here, this could happen indeed next week. And it could mean, for example, that the House of Representatives, in just a matter of days, could draft articles of impeachment and could hold a vote within just a few days, and it would certainly pass. The articles of impeachment would pass because Trump has been guilty of impeachable offenses, including obstruction of justice, abuse of power, incitement to sedition, more than adequate to impeach Donald Trump. The case would then move to the United States Senate, and you're right to recollect that the last time this happened, the Senate was unwilling to vote to remove Donald Trump from office. I think it could be different, but it would be a close call. Here's why. As you know, in order to remove a president from office, it takes 2/3 of the Senate to convict and to vote to remove the president. We could count on all the Democrats, and we don't know exactly when the two senators from Georgia just elected, Warnock and Ossoff, will replace the people whom they defeated. If in fact they are replacing the former Georgian senators, that would give the Democrats 50 senators. And so that would mean that we would need 17 more Republicans in order to convict Donald Trump of the impeachable offenses and remove him from office. I think there might be 15 or 16 Republicans who would be willing to sign off on the removal. It's going to be a close call. It would take a lot of persuasion, but it could be done. And why would the Democrats and the Republicans work together to remove Donald Trump? Because, as I said, there's great fear about the kind of harm that he could inflict on the nation, and remove him from office, even though we might only be talking days away from the end of his term. But there's another reason, a compelling reason why he should be impeached, and that is the power of impeachment exercised by Congress can carry with it an additional penalty, and that is precisely this. Congress could append to the articles of impeachment a penalty which would forbid Donald Trump from ever holding office or serving in a public trust under the authority of the United States ever again. And ladies and gentlemen, that's critical, because you've all heard that Donald Trump already has said he's going to run for the presidency in 2024. If Congress impeaches him, removes him from office, and votes to impose this additional penalty that would bar him from ever holding public office again, this ensures our protection against the authoritarian Donald Trump. Congress must act. It's the impeachment power that can save us now and save us in the future. Thanks for joining us. If you like this program, please follow the Alturas Institute at alturasinstitute.com, and please subscribe at this YouTube channel. Thanks very much for joining us.